Peace, peace, peace. Today is October 27th, 2020. Chilling with my brother Rel. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. Today's topic will be the concept of time. Time is a change in observable values. Observer, the one observing, the one having the experience, right? The evidence of the projector is in the projection. So the projection is constantly changing and being observed by the observer. Time is also a measure of energy, right? So the measurement is metrics and measurements by the observer. So this is why man or the observer has dominion over all things on the planet, because all things are trapped in the perceptual acuity of the observer. And it can't be separate. It's one and the same. It is the mirror of the observer. Now, when we use clock time, the clock time is based on the Gregorian calendar. What is the foundation of the clock time? Seconds that turn into minutes, that turn into hours, that turn into days, weeks, months. Then you have the year that we go by. We say this is 2020, but then you have other years out there, right? You have the Chinese year that's going on. You have the so-called the Jewish year or year of Judaism, right? Different years. Some of their years are 5,000 and change. Why is ours 2020? Right? So these are things that we have to question, especially right now with daylight savings time coming up November 1st, where the clock is going to go back. My question is, which time is the real time? The time that we're in right now, that happened during spring, where the clock moved forward, or the one that we're going to go back to? Right, take it.
Well, before we even go
ahead.
I'm happy to share this time with you.
Peace, family. Peace. My brother right here.
I'm Rel, Big Leaf, Red Order Music Group. Eternal is a very important person in my life, known him for over a decade in Grecan time. When he says Gregorian, we're talking Greek. And truly an honor to be a part of his build. I love what he's doing because for the listeners who's paying attention, you can get a lot of your questions answered, because what's happening is this so-called life as we know it, or this simulation as we know it, is cracking, and you're seeing glitches in it because the ultimate lie is starting to be revealed and people are starting to wake up. So this is part of that. And even us having this conversation with being some generations apart represents that. Right. You know, and it's literally a passing of the torch, passion of the knowledge, and a passing of building, you know, as our forefathers and foremothers have done before. So I appreciate this time with you. When you're talking about time, and I like to really put things in layman's terms for the listeners, in your daily life, because we live in this, I want to say, lie where everything is controlled by a false monetary system, they who have been in power for so long have understood that if you can control someone's perspective or perception of time, you can control their spirituality, their entire being. And one method of doing that is controlling how they're able to sustain their needs as a human being. So the basic needs of a human being is food, clothing, and shelter. So if you create a false system that the human being must rely on, then you can control the human being's time. And ultimately, you can control their destiny on this third density or 3D plane, so to speak. And this is where you get the whole concept, time is money. So when you really understand that and you really break it down and look at it for what it is, a lie that's built on top of a lie, if you pay attention very deeply, there's some truth into it due to the laws of duality. That's a whole different subject.
Yeah.
But now, when you're looking at the clock time, and you mentioned Greco or Greco-Roman calendar, you're looking at a calendar based on a culture's perception of nature and time. And so us being melanated beings who have navigated this planet and the I want to say the direct lineage of celestial beings, that's a whole different subject. We have fell victim to the Roman Greco calendar, which is not our perception of time. So now that our perception of time is now warped, our perception of life is warped. Right. Now it's trading our time for $1, which is a false sense of currency. So this is truly a game. This is a game of epic proportions, and when you understand the fundamental makeups of the human being, you start to understand where the enslavement took place, and you start to understand the reasons as to why. It was deeper than chattel slavery. This is spiritual warfare. Mm-hmm. The ones in the powers that be are practicing art, dark arts, on a scale that has far greater depth than just the 3D world that we all perceive with our five senses. They're going at it from an unseen world, which is these concepts, time. Like, realistically speaking, you can't see time based on what you perceive with your senses. You can only see a instrument that's telling you what the time is, but you can't see it. You get what I'm saying? So you can only see a clock that's telling you 12 o'clock based on somebody else's or another culture's perception of time. But that's not our culture. That's not where we come from.
Right. And when you're talking about the analog clock, you have the pi point, the dot or the decimal point in the middle of the clock. And then you have the hour, minute, and second hands that extend outward from there, pointing to 12 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock. And you tell time. You've been told to tell time or taught to tell time from there. But do you know what is time, who is time, and where is time? Do you understand that time is just based on experience? What you call experience is time. My time and your time are not the same, right? Born alone, die alone, but experience time alone. The time-space perception, time and what we call life is a negative, right? It's negation. And as the observer, you have to stand on your upright on that, and you get the positive symbol. I've said this. You're perpendicular, 4 angles, right?
You're square.
You're square. I've stated this in previous videos. Thank you, my brother, so eloquently put. Right? So all of these things is based on the mirror effect. My son asked me the other day to explain something to him, and I didn't get a chance to. He's sitting behind the camera. You can't see him. And it was based something about the feedback mechanism, which is something that I haven't gotten to him yet to really build on because it's high metaphysics. The feedback mechanism is the environment, and what the environment feeds back to the observer in the middle of the circle or the cipher, right? So you only know yourself through something other than yourself at a 12 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock. If you want to get deep to understand who is time, what is time? Time is not something separate from you. It is you.
Right.
Time cell perception, I've stated this in my other videos. TCP is cellular interpretation of time.
Right.
So when you're having a great time, time flying, time speeding up, you're like, damn, time flew. What time is it?
Right.
But when you're bored, time is dragging. How is it that your consciousness speeds up and slows down time if time is separate from you? The biggest trick in the world was to make you think that time is something outside of you. Right. The biggest trick in the world is when daylight savings time was created somewhere around World War I, according to the history or the research, 1917, 1918. And then it got instituted in different regions. You have 24 different time zones on the planet. Mm-hmm. Who determines when the demarcation line is between this time zone and this time zone? Right. Who created that?
Right.
Is it accurate? When this Sunday comes, which is November 1st or 2nd, whichever day it is, right? Is that time, is that 6:30 really 5:30 or 6:30? Because the analog clock moved back because you was told to move it back.
Right.
Do you question these things? Well, talk.
Right, and that's the key thing. Like, we all have subscribed to the great lie, which is the lie of time. And from the lie of time, our spirituality has been dictated. I don't have time to get in tune with myself because I got to get this money. I don't have time for meditation. I don't have time for grounding. I don't have time to eat good. I don't have time to learn how to and these are all concepts because, again, they have learned how to manipulate the human being's perception of all things. And when I mean human being, I mean man of color, man of hue. In reality, the perception of time is really with you and nature and how you interface with nature, and the only true time that exists, and that is the time of now.
Yes.
You get what I'm saying? There are instruments such as clocks, like you said, that tell you what time it is, but it's based on a Roman Greco concept.
Right.
So it's not really that time. As a matter of fact, the clock is your enemy. When you learn how to ground yourself in the everlasting now, you're not only able to change your perception of clock time, with practice, you can make time slow down. And you're able to accomplish what people would say are great things, but in reality, you learned how to slow down the clock time. And they do this in a lot of arts. So if you pay attention to Japan, the Japanese tea ceremony is ancient. And it's ancient because not only is it a practice of servitude and honor, but it's a spiritual practice. When they're serving the tea in the form and everything is slow and deliberate, it's intense. It's designed to get you grounded in the everlasting now. And so there's many forms of getting grounded in the now. When you return to the now, you return to the true time, and it gives your mind a rest, which is necessary.
Yes.
So that you're not running too crazy off of clock time. That's why meditation is important. Right. Stillness is important. Having no thing to do is important. Being able to get in tune and away from the system of control such as clock time is important, because when you're able to have that level of separation, you're then able to plug back into the matrix, but you can make the matrix do what you want it to do.
Wow. So, wow, I have to let that marinate for a minute. That was so heavy. So, when we're talking about the now, piggybacking, seconds is the foundation according to Gregorian calendar. But whatever happened to first and whatever happened to now, where does that fit in the Gregorian calendar? It doesn't. And it's done like that on purpose. You're not properly educated of what time is, who time is, where time is. You're too busy telling time, right? And so you're participating in a big lie that's fabricated in order to control you, in order to control your movements. I don't have time, like he said. Time is money, right? What is money but currency? And it's a electrical current all coming from the mind, because we assign value to all things. All things. There's nothing exempt that's not in your perceptual measurement, which is a judgment. Metrics and measurement is the judge. The ment is the mind that's always judging it. So when you understand that, you begin to become liberated from the fog of illusions that has been pushed into your nervous system, central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. You've been locked into this third density to believe that this is real, to believe that external time is real, to believe that you don't have time, and to believe that this concept of money, that time is money, because you're the one giving value to it, the same way you give value to all things. If we take it to the scripture, you see that God creates all these things, but then he tells Adam, name the animals. He didn't name the animals himself. He told Adam to do it because it's his perceptual measurement that has dominion over all things according to how he was made. But it's the same thing for all things. In fact, there is no such thing as color in this physical world. The cones in your eyes assign value to it. The neurons send it to the visual cortex in the back of your brain. You only see color in the back of your brain. Your eyes, you don't even see with your eyes. You gather the data and information of the photons and the information coming in. Then it gets processed to your visual cortex. And you see color, and you see a colorful world in the back of your brain. There is no physical, tangible color in this world. This is why people are colorblind. So if there's a problem with the cones and the rods in your eyes, there is no color out here. But this lie, this deception, D&D I call it, duplicity and deception, but that's a whole nother topic, but it's still relative to this deception.
And they use the language and etymology.
Go ahead.
We're speaking English. This is the dead language.
The dead language.
So it's inexplicable what the now is. There's no word that we can use to identify and interface with it. So how can we teach it?
Wow.
If they took our language, how can I explain to you the laws of the universe using an oppressive language?
Right. The slave's tongue.
How can I? It's impossible. But like I told you before, even within the impossible lies the possible. That's the duality in the nature of all things. That's the balance of what our ancestors referred to as ma'at. It's the balance of all things, the in and the out, the yin and the yang. Here's the interesting thing. We need the lie of clock time for us to reach the understanding so that we can share this time in the now, building upon the falsehood of clock time, because we're able to observe it from different angles. And although the English language can never fully explain the depth of this concept, just the mere fact of us understanding the fallacy of clock time and being able to articulate it properly and speak on it eloquently makes it so that the listener out there can try and gather some information and intel and use their only true time, which is the now, and put it to the test. Like you always told me, eat the fish, spit out the bones.
Talk about it.
But you have to use that in your scope of experience. But what I would like for the viewers to practice is practice going outside with no phone, no watch, no device, telling you the time, and take a walk around your block and feel your feet hit the pavement and be in the present moment as possible to give your brain a rest and some level of separation from clock time. You'll be a more balanced human being. The reason why we're all out of whack right now is because we're unbalanced and we are too much into the matrix or the simulation or the lie, and we have become self-destructive.
Right.
And this is exactly what we're seeing in today's world. Everybody is putting the dollar before life itself.
Yes.
And that's because what money or the illusion of having money, what it represents in this lie is the access to more time. They gave it to us in a movie. I watched it. In Time with Justin Timberlake. They weren't even trading currency. They were trading time. And they told you, and they put a numerical value in your arm. And you got everybody running around and robbing each other for time.
Wow.
It told you in the movie, time is money.
Wow.
Go watch that movie In Time, Justin Timberlake.
Powerful. So, money buys freedom. The freedom to make the merchant acquiesce to give you what it is that you want or need, right? It's all based, it's a key to open up the lock of ignorance that I can't barter or trade with you unless you have that on deck. How Jay-Z said it, it's like, me and money, we like two armed co-defendants. Like, it's like dishes in the sink, dirty dishes in the sink. You got to be in sync with it. You know what I'm saying? It goes hand in hand according to the concept. Because I can't, in this third density, I haven't seen nothing move unless that's present to make the other person acquiesce based on their mind wash and brainwash. Because no child dropped out of the womb and was like, Mom, my dad, that money. It was taught to you out of fear and out of the need to survive. The lower reptilian brain, the animal side, the human, not the being, the spiritual side, needs to transact on this planet in order to survive. You will not survive unless you can transact. The medium of exchange that creates transactions is what the oppressive force has pushed on all of us. See, Money is not power. Convincing everybody on the planet that this is the medium of exchange is power.
Right.
In fact, power don't print money. I mean,
Right.
power don't earn money, power print money.
Right.
And then tell you that you got to exchange through this. Fathom on that guy.
And you subscribe to it because you get attacked on multiple levels. I mean, let's face it.
Yeah.
If you're playing in the game of, the world, it's a continuous battle, not just on a emotional side, but it's a battle on a metaphysics side, which is always been there, will always continue to be there, and that is the darkness versus the light. You need both. Somebody asked me, why would God create the devil? Well, what other better way to know your bad self than to create your bad self?
Mm-hmm.
So you're always going to have this battle between dark and light, high melanated, no melanated. These are chaotic principles that exist in the universe and makes it what it is.
Facts.
You need the chaos. You also need the order. They must continue to interact.
Yes.
What I always say to a lot of people is what's going on now in terms of light and white supremacy is not a personal thing.
Right.
It's never been personal. These are all the laws of the universe. Pardon me, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
These are, who's that? Oh, LA, what's the word? How you doing, my brother? We got some guests in the house, y'all.
Peace,
Wait,
peace,
hold on. Not yet. So going back to the light versus the dark, understanding that the people that are involved in the light and the dark concept understand these things, and they realize that not only is it a matter of the laws of the universe, but also a matter of genetics and continuing a gene pool. You understand?
Right.
Survival of the fittest, Darwinism, etc., etc. Nevertheless, we're going to move on and we're going to talk about the concept again. It's a concept built on other concepts. It's like a house of cards. So what's happening is now you're seeing the house of cards fall down. You're seeing the devaluation of the world's global currency, which is the United States dollar.
Yes.
It only has 10% of the buying power that it once had.
Yes.
So now everybody's like, well, why am I running around trying to get for $1? I'm going to either go hard for the dollar or I'm not going to worry about it at all. And I'm going to try and figure out how I can live off the land.
Yes.
And see, now that's when man or human starts to interface with nature nevertheless. And the systems of control are starting to break down. Or what we know of as the systems of control are starting to break down. And we watch The Matrix all the time. We always build on The Matrix.
Yes.
Remember, in the movie The Matrix, when Neo met the, I believe his name was the architect, he told Neo that you're not the only one that was ever the one. There was multiple ones. So I have a firm belief that what we're seeing here in this simulation is not the first time.
Yes.
We've had this conversation before.
Facts.
And what we perceive as another time in the past or future, like you said, which was linear, but the truth is we've always had this conversation in the everlasting now. English will never be able to explain it. You have to live it.
Yes.
And see, I've been fortunate enough to live it, being an entrepreneur, and understanding that I literally participated in taking back as much of my time as I can by creating systems and organizations which can thrive so that the money can take care of itself.
Yes.
One of the greatest things that I've ever done was make passive income.
Yes.
Literally, I can sit here and income is coming in, and then I can really start to question, well, when I had a job, was I more stressed or less stressed? Why was I always stressed? Because I was always running late to work. I was always on somebody else's perception of time.
Yeah.
And deep down inside, it was a spiritual battle because what it was telling me was that I was subscribing to somebody else's lie.
Yeah.
I need you to be here by 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock when?
Right.
On whose time?
Right.
What time are we talking about? And why am I doing this? So that's the super important part of being able to control your own destiny to the best of your ability. And the only way that you can do that is by being self-sufficient. You can't control your time with someone telling you what time you have to go to lunch. And that's the challenge with most people. Because like I said, they understand that, and they understood that the time and the money relationship, they can make it so that it can make a human being afraid. If they make it so that the system must rely and the human being must rely on the system. You know what I'm saying?
No, it's not.
So when you do that through the spiritual means, and then you get them on attacking their basic needs, you have their time. Watch this. People don't know this. Over 1 million. Let me see, and let me get the numbers right. Approximately 847,000 black men were enslaved in chattel slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Over 1 million men are enslaved in the prison industrial complex.
Mm-hmm.
What's the common denominator? Time,
Mm-hmm.
or the perception of time. We go to the presidential campaign.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about, and you were there for this time,
Yes.
the frivolous drug charges that were placed upon a lot of black men,
Mm-hmm.
getting incarcerated for the same types of drug offenses.
1994 crime.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Help accelerate that to the point where you have modern day slavery existing with larger numbers of incarcerated men than you did in chattel slavery.
Mm-hmm.
And if you pay attention to growing up in the hood, what do they tell you? Yo, I gotta get this money. So I gotta spend this time hustling to get this
Trading for
money.
yeah.
And then I get booked, and now I gotta give them time, and I have no money.
No money.
They got both of the games sold up. Go ahead.
Just to add on, according to the numbers, every 100,000 black men in America that are born, boys, out of those, 8,000 of them are guaranteed to go to jail. Highest on the planet. Only second is South Africa. Every 100,000, 803 are guaranteed to go to jail. So we drop out the womb ready to go to the prison industrial system.
Right.
Because it's wired and set up like that.
Right.
When's the last time you've been to a store, like a retail store, and saw like an Asian check you out? Because they have their own economy. They understand in the 70s when they came here, because 1965 was the Immigration Act. And in the 70s is when they came and they started setting up their business, the 80s, 90s, on to right now. So they understand group economics, and they had help.
But
We don't have no help. So this is when we talk about quote unquote white supremacy, we're not complaining. We understand what time we're in, and the construct, the setup of how to escape this thing is almost slim to none. You have to have a very deep mind to understand what you're in the middle of, especially if intergenerational wealth is not part of your equation. AKA no money wasn't handed down to you. You're starting from scratch while others are starting from handouts. So that is another aspect of this time, third density experience
that's why they always say time is money.
Yes. Because it buys you the freedom to not get caught up in that and give up your freedom. Well, like what you said.
It doesn't buy you the freedom, because both of them are lies. Right?
Yes.
Freedom, and what we like to depict as freedom in this particular country is financial freedom.
Yes.
But what I can really say is there's two types of money problems that you have.
Good.
And you have not enough money, and then you have a lot of money. They both come with their own set and shares of problems. So you'll never be free.
Yeah.
You'll never just have a happy-go-lucky life and just everything is...
No. That's true.
You know what I'm saying? What they talk about is the concept of financial freedom. Both of them are lies. Freedom in this third density cannot be attained because you have to die to reach ultimate freedom. Because your body, your human body, will always keep you enslaved. That is part of the universal law of order and chaos. You have all the money in the world. If you get sick, it's over.
It's ground zero.
Right. So the concept of freedom comes with understanding that because you are a human being, you will never fully be free. Thus, you can give yourself grace. And now when you receive grace and compassion for yourself and others, you can somewhat experience compassion and grace for other human beings. Then you can get a glimpse of freedom.
Because true freedom is perfection, and only thing that holds perfection is death.
It's death.
Life is chaos, disorder, and enslavement to what? The somatic appetite, soma meaning pertaining to this body.
The human.
The human, the animal, the entanglement to urges, desires, fleshly appetites, right? Sexual appetites.
Yeah.
I want this, I want that. Ephemeral acquisitions that give you that moment of happiness and then it's fleeting.
It's chemical.
The diseases of more start to take over. I want more. And what the money does, quote unquote, is give you more access to what's fleeting anyway. Because look, a Bugatti 2.5 million, you buy it, you will be bored of it 4 or 5 years from now.
Yo.
After you show it off to the hood, somebody else gonna pull up with one and they're gonna ignore you. You'll be like, damn, they getting all that to my attention.
Right. Now your dopamine is craving even more.
More.
Now you must feed the beast. You're never free when you're in the human body.
No.
And so I always like to tell people the powers that be do builds like this.
Yeah.
They create think tanks, rooms of people really sitting here and trying to articulate it in multi-languages, bringing the best scientists, the best observers, the best quantum physicists, the best metaphysicists. And they go, okay, well, we know that there must be chaos and order in the universe. And they just decide what side they want to be on based on their perception. But it's all illusionary.
Yeah.
This is all illusionary. This third density is only God with a sense of humor, which is, I want to know myself, so I must create something so that I can have further understanding of myself.
Through something other than
Right.
me.
And it's a joke.
It's Reverend Phil Valentine, my master metaphysical teacher, said, you are participating in an illusion of atoms.
Right.
And your participation creates the entanglement and the enslavement. Why? Because once the dopamine rush starts to happen, all the endorphins start to take place of this interfacing and entanglement with an event or thing.
Right.
What does it want? It needs to be repeated over and over and over and over again. And especially for men, producing 1,500 sperm cells per second.
They gotta be free.
96,000 per minute.
Gotta be free.
So this build up, this build up, and as soon as you release, I think Lil Wayne said, once I come back to my senses. That's what he said. And us men, we know, as soon as you release that at that time, the urge just goes away and you come back and your rational mind comes back. Only men understand this. You have to be in this vehicle, this terrestrial vehicle, just the harassment, because the sperm cell wants to continue in another life and experience another space-time experience.
Consciousness creating consciousness to understand consciousness.
Speak on it.
And that's what we're dealing with. This is not personal. What we're seeing in the presidential election and all of these elections and all of these things, this is not personal. This is part of the cosmic order of all things. The joy and the pain, the chaos and the order. This must happen. And so we must participate. Must meaning it is by cosmic law in the lie. So that our higher selves can understand our higher selves. And this is this conversation now. You're not talking to someone of a low level in this moment in time.
Fact.
Do I have my low level times? Absolutely. I love it. Indulge in it. But right now, in this moment, the truest moment of all time, which is the everlasting now, you are speaking to the consciousness that is delighted in speaking to another consciousness, thus raising the consciousness in the entire room. We got an audience.
Yes, that the camera can't.
The camera can't see, but there's an audience.
Yeah.
And see, the interesting thing is, as we do these builds, we learn to master the English language, which is literally learning to master the slave master's most powerful tool. to be able to not only understand ourselves, but understanding those that interface with us in our cipher,
Right.
and then being able to raise them using the tool. Because as I said to you before, the truth is hidden in the lie.
It must be.
The truth of time is hidden in the concept of time.
Yeah.
You must go through the concept to understand the truth.
The truth.
You must go through pain to truly understand joy.
Yes.
And that's where we at with it. I've said all I've said.
Wow. Because the interfacing of that is where it's all direct experience. It's not based on what someone else said or hearsay. Direct experience and proper sorting out of what was experienced from the experiencer, right, is key to elevation, consciousness elevation, to reach that higher level.
That's why I tell you all the time, you can't tell people certain things.
True.
See, that's what we have to always remember.
Yes.
You have to allow them the grace to go through the pain so that they can understand the joy. And see, when we have fear of loss of a person dying from going through too much pain, that's because we are still subscribed to the lie.
Yeah. The attachment.
That's our teacher. We're attached. Like we both have children.
Mm-hmm.
We say things like, God forbid our children go before us.
Facts.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have a right to say that because that's our perspective and perception.
Yes.
But in the grand scheme of things, how big and how much do our children really matter in comparison to the universe?
Yeah. The objective reality.
The objective reality versus the subjective reality.
Yes.
People tell me about their problems, I understand. Because your subjective reality is huge.
Yeah.
But if I give you the objective reality and start to explain to you that your problems, objectively speaking, in the grand scheme of life, is not as big as the universe, you start to realize how small you really are.
Yeah.
And it's, the constant duality. In your world, you're the biggest thing smoking. In the universe's world, you're a fucking dot. Excuse my language.
No.
And so understanding that, it's funny.
Yeah.
Like I start to realize that I understand things in life when I laugh at it.
Yes.
Because I give it the grace. And I understand the concept in the lie of time. I laugh at it now.
You know, I've stated in my previous videos about the Doppler effect as well. The Doppler effect is when the fire truck is coming. You're walking. The siren has a pitch up the block. When it reaches you, the pitch begins to change. When it passes you, it changes again. Your consciousness is directly involved in that pitch changing. It's called the Doppler effect, right? Y'all can look that up. I've told you this before. And if you wasn't there, not only would the pitch wouldn't be there, that siren is directly involved with you. And all the different observers that's on that block, they're hearing that pitch differently. It's so deep. But it's just that we're just not aware because it's kind of like all the internal things that are going on inside of you. You're just not aware of it, but it's nevertheless still processing through you.
Well, it's very tough to be aware when you're constantly subscribed to the lie of time. I can't be aware because I gotta run to work.
Right.
So I'm running to work. Meanwhile, look, I'm not even paying attention. I'm not even in the present now. I'm not in the now. And I'm running, and the siren is there. I hear it, but I don't even have the time because I'm texting my boss. I'm running late. I'm running. Next thing you know, I get knocked by the truck. Yeah. These are things. You know what I've come to understand too. The universe, when you're in tune, has an interesting way of bringing you back to the now.
Right.
It can bring you back to the now through joy or pain. But it will, when you have been in tune with it and you have been revealed, it will bring you back. Because even when you start to attain knowledge, it doesn't necessarily mean that you backslide.
Right.
And see, perfection of self is an everlasting journey and you don't reach it until you die.
It's really progress.
It's really progress.
Strive for progress. Yeah.
Right. I'm not asking to kill all of my bad habits tomorrow.
No.
If I can defeat a bad habit, like I got a problem with eating. If I can defeat the bad habit for one day, then move on to the next day, then to the next day, to the next day, in the everlasting now, and be present the whole time, then I've made progress as a human being.
Right.
Then when I die, I'll leave the third density. I've reached perfection. Whole different ballgame.
Just to add on, the construct of the Gregorian calendar, if used properly from a conscious aware state, can be used as to create structure in your day. You do, like I was supposed to be here at 4 o'clock, I got here at 4:03. Like I'm normally on time, quote unquote, whatever that is, right?
Yeah, right.
Like it's an agreed upon, I'm gonna meet you at this particular area.
Right.
Like I don't like lateness, me
Right.
personally. My mother raised me that way.
Right.
If I showed up late, 5 minutes late, the yelling and the carrying on, I was like, my goodness.
Because time is money.
Right. And so it got burned into me to always be on time 90-something% of the time.
Right.
Quote unquote.
Right.
And then how can I be late when I am time? I am time. So I'm the one projecting the analog clock and this whole third density from my subjective experience. My 12, my 9, 6, and 3 are different than everyone else's. So how can I be late when I am time? Is the construct that I move from, separate from their concept that they gave us. Because they are good qualities if you use the analog Gregorian clock properly, because people do respect you being on time.
Well, good and bad are judgment calls.
Yes,
and
true.
that's all subjective. Because look at the same concept, and let's just point out the lie.
Speak
It
on
was 403 on your clock, but on my iPhone it could have said 407.
True.
Who is to say which is right or wrong?
That's true.
And so what I say to that is, again, a lot of the things that we are instilled are projections. And a lot of things that have been projected upon us have been fear-based.
Fear-based.
Why did your mother say always be on time? Because is it perhaps that she grew up in an era where if you weren't on time for just the slightest bit, white supremacy or the ones that are in play will say, you know what, you're going to lose your job today.
Fact.
And guess what? You have no form of power to even combat that, and you rely so much on this system
Yes.
to feed yourself and your offspring
Right.
that I got you. And so she goes out of maybe fear.
Yes. To plant that.
Right. And not to say that clock time can't be good or bad.
Right.
I don't even want to use judgment calls.
Yes.
How about clock time is just clock time?
That's
It's
all.
just an instrument that's telling you a time so that your subjective reality and my subjective reality can both agree on a lie
And a lie and merge.
and merge.
And then the concept of I respect your time, so I'm going to be on time.
Right.
Speak to that.
Okay, so the respecting of the time is just us giving me, or it's just us having a certain character and a principle about ourselves, which is truly our word is our bond. It's not just I
Yes.
respect your time. I'm using the clock
Yes.
to reinforce my word
Being my bond.
being my bond. See, that's universal principle.
Facts.
Because we're talking vibrations now.
Yeah.
We're talking, and they say it in the Bible.
Yeah.
In the beginning, God was with the Word, and the
Word.
Word was with, right, because they're talking on a, and this is off topic, but
No, it's
that's
on
a,
topic.
that's a vibration.
Yes.
Word, vocal, is a vibration. Words
Yes.
and the resonance of the human body and how the human body resonates and interfaces with the universe. You understand? So we build it and we break it back down. So it's not so much I respect your time. No, my word is my bond. And if I say I'm going to do something and we will both agree
Yes.
in this matrix
In this matrix, yes.
that I'm going to do something, the matrix is just a reinforcement of the word is the bond. There goes the lie within the truth.
Ooh.
There goes the truth within the lie.
Ooh.
You always will need both. I gotta
Yes.
watch this video back.
There's a metaphysical saying as well that All is mind and mind is all, and the mind and movement creates sound, or the word, sound, light, geometry, and numbers. Four things. And the number 4 is where everything on the physical plane manifests. 4 is the gateway, the door.
Right.
So it goes to your point, and your word being your bond, and I would rather die before my word fails 5% of the time.
Right.
Or whichever. Doesn't even matter.
Doesn't matter.
But the concept is universal.
Right. My word
is my bond.
Is my bond.
And it's so important. Before my word fails,
right,
I would go. Brilla will tell you how I was rushing to get out the door to get here on time or near that time.
Right.
It's very important.
Right.
Because my word is my bond.
Right.
And
but suppose my clock said 4 o'clock and you was at the door.
This is true.
If you never would have told me 4:03, we both would have had agreed in the lie that you were on time.
On time. That's deep. So then
it's a joke.
This is how you know you're participating in the lie.
It's the lie.
Yes.
It's a joke.
Yes. And then again, when November 1st comes, I think when they move the clock forward in the spring, they created it according to the history because they wanted more daylight time for more transactions to happen during the spring and summer months.
Mm-hmm.
So outdoor eating, this, that, and the third. So speeding that up creates more daylight hours, which means more spending, which means more
time
tax
is money.
revenue. Time is money.
Right back to it.
But that's not the real time, the time that we're quote unquote in right now. None of it is the real time. But this is a residual effect of the first part of the Gregorian calendar, which is this daylight savings time that we're about to transition out of to go back into the original that was created by who knows who.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Well, we won't get into that because I wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
But I can read about it and speculate about it. So it's a deep thing. You know what I'm saying?
It is, and it's always beautiful to have conversations such as these, and I'm happy we're recording them because we're doing this in the now, which is the true time, and there is, in this very moment, no clock that's telling us what time it is, so it doesn't really matter what time it is. We're not coming together to build based on the concept time is money. We're coming to share the everlasting now, and we're using it with great intention to not only build and teach with each other, but build and teach the viewer. And that's part of the human experience that allows the being or your God essence to shine in and give that creation of consciousness. Because we never know who may be affected by these words. We never may know who will go outside without a phone, without a watch, without any device, and take a walk wherever that they're at and be present in the steps that they take. And if we have contributed to helping someone live in that experience of the now, which is the truth, then we have done a great thing.
That's a fact. And with that being said, we're going to close this video out. My brother Rel is such an important component in my world. We come from the same tribe. There's a tribe of us out here in Canarsie, Brooklyn, and the day I met him was one of the greatest moments in this everlasting now. He's a soldier. He's a spiritual advisor. I would put him up against, and he's physically younger, but spiritually older than most 50, 60-year-olds. Let's be clear. He'll run circles around most people in their 60s. I'm telling you that because when I met him, most people can't keep up with me when it comes to this metaphysical thing. And when he ran circles around me, I was like, whoa.
Well, it's good intention.
No, it's great.
If I've contributed to your growth,
and you have,
out of love, then that's exactly what I was meant to do in the time that we shared.
Fact. Fact. So with all that being said, let your last endeavor be your best endeavor. I repeat, let your last endeavor be your best endeavor. Salute.
Peace.